All right. So the first thing to create this is we need to make sure, I'm not going to take this whole image and try to wrap it because that's not how it would work, right? We would only see the part that we want to see. So that's the first thing is kind of just looking at this. I'm just going to take down the opacity and deciding which part of this I really want to keep. And making sure it goes all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom. So I like the eyeball of this. So I may take this and we're going to take this part of the image, okay? The next thing is you can see I've already drawn some guidelines. So I know where the top of this image is because we're going to cut this in two pieces. We're going to cut it right here and we're going to cut it right here, right? And if you need other guidelines, you could. Like if you wanted to say, all right, well, I don't need all this image. Let's just kind of draw some guidelines, giving me some breathing room kind of around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this image that's here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure snap is on. Does anyone know why we would want to make sure snap is on? Yeah, because it's accurate. It'll actually snap, and let's make sure we are snap to guides. It'll make sure that I'm dead on, right? In order to do this, I need to make sure I'm kind of perfect. And you can kind of like feel it as you're moving it, that it'll go right to the guides. So what I'm going to do is do Command J on that image, and then also select this piece that's here, go back to my original one, and do Command J as well. So what I should have is two pieces, right? So now that I have this, I'm going to bring this up to 100. Actually, I'm going to keep it at here. And I'm going to take off the guidelines for a second. So now what I'm going to do is use warp. Just like we did with the book, we're going to do this with this image. So let's kind of zoom in. And so I need to wrap around these particular spots that are here, right? So I'm going to do Command T, right-click on it, and do warp. And I'm going to pull this up to the top, pull this one up to the top, and actually now I'm going to take off snap, because I want to kind of be able to freeform this a little bit. And you can see pretty easily I can warp this to the can itself. We're going to change this so it kind of goes in line with here. We're going to go down to the bottom here, right? We're going to form this one so it's there. We're going to take this and drag that in, right? Use warp again to kind of make sure we get that shape correct. We're going to change this one to make sure it's in line, and we're going to change this one. And we do OK. So you can see now that's perfectly around the can. Let's bring this up to 100%. And all we need to do is we could blend this. We could try overlay. You could try multiply. And you could also, again, use that same trick that we've done before, right? Bringing in some of the can texture that's in here. Using that blend if really starts to blend these in quite nicely. That goes a little too far. Right, so now it looks like it's wrapped around the can. But we need to make sure, let's say we wanted to wrap this part around too. That's this little piece that we grabbed. So let's turn that one back on. Right, and we're going to zoom in to get this one. And we do the same thing. We're going to go to warp. And again, I'm just going to maneuver these two pieces. And again, I need to zoom in and make sure this works correctly, because I want this piece to be here, but I want this piece to kind of follow that curve, right? And we want this to follow the curve that's down there. And the same thing here. We're going to bring this part in, bring this part in. And then make sure that this meets up. And make sure this meets up, and make sure this meets up. Right, bring that up to 100%. And I actually kind of like it a little bit darker. I think that gives some interest to it, it gives some shadow to it. And you could change this. Let's change this to multiply, bring in some of the color that's there. If you wanted to change this, right, you could. You know, so it's keeping with some of the shadow that's there. And there you have your flat image looking like it's curved and wrapped around. Now, if you wanted to further give this some dimension, let's say you feel like it didn't pick up the shadow enough that's there, right? We can do that. I'm going to select this shape that's here, create a new layer, and put a mask on it. So now it's this empty layer with right, with this mask on it. So anything that I do is going to be just inside of this. And I'm going to grab, let's see, let's sample this color here and make it a little bit darker. Right, and I'm going to grab this kind of flat brush that's here, and I'm just going to paint it like this. And then I'm going to do multiply, and you can see I added some darkness to it. Right, and again, I could then change the opacity of it. So maybe I want to heighten that. Maybe I want to put a new highlight that's in there. Same thing, I just add white to do it in order to add it in. Right, so we can kind of further enhance what's going on. Right, make sense? This is amazing. I know. Bryce, where were you on that one? I missed your fake enthusiasm. All right, so that's the idea, right? Taking something that's completely flat. You could do the same thing with text if you wanted to. You could take the text and wrap it in that same kind of way. So I would do, if you were going to do text, I would do your whole entire image first and then take the whole entire thing and do it rather than trying to do it in pieces. It'll just wrap better. Rather than you trying to match the text in this wrapped view, it's just really hard to do. So do your full image first. Do it all out as if you want the label, and then bring it in and put it on whatever you want to do, right?